Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. This is another cemeteries episode, but I'm going to be focusing on one grave today in honor of Black Music Month. At the time I'm doing this video, it's in June of 2022. And one of the famous people buried here is R&B/soul singer Luther Ingram. He grew up here mostly, and this is where he is buried. I will go ahead and give you a little biography of him and his great life, and then I will visit his grave site. So come with me. Luther Thomas Ingram was born on November 30th, 1937 in Jackson, Tennessee. When he was 10 years old, his family moved to Alton, Illinois, which is not too far from here. Luther's love of music had gone back to his childhood days. He and his siblings had formed a group called the Midwest Crusaders and performed at nightclubs while he was a teen. In 1956, he formed a group called the Gardenias, and they met up with a local St. Louis musician named Ike Turner. Now back then, Ike Turner was the man with all the connections. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, just watch the movie What's Love Got to Do with It. And we all know what happened to Ike Turner in later years, but he would kind of give the group, Luther's group, some limited success, producing their single called Flaming Love. Luther would soon be the leader of a group called the G-Men, where he would have very little success with the single I Spy for the FBI. That was released in 1965 under an affiliate of the Mercury label. 1969, Luther had his first hit single, though it did not make the top 40. That was My Honey and Me. He had actually hit the R&B chart earlier that year with Pity for the Lonely. In the 1970s, Luther would achieve success as a songwriter with a song called Respect Yourself. He was the co-writer. That song would be a hit for the gospel and R&B group the Staple Singers in 1971. So in 1972, Luther put out the song If Lovin' You Is Wrong, in parentheses, I Don't Want to Be Right, which became his signature song. It was not written by him, but by three men, Homer Banks, Carl Hampton, and Raymond Jackson. All of them were Stax label songwriters. The song was originally written for the girl group The Emotions. It was originally a fast rhythm-based tune, but it was the idea of Luther's to slow it down and add guitars and a Wurlitzer organ. This would help Luther Ingram earn his biggest hit on both the pop and R&B charts. On the Billboard Hot 100, it went as high as number 3. On the R&B chart, it would go to number 1 for 4 weeks. That song, which of course is about adultery, has been covered by several artists in later years, including Rod Stewart, LeAnn Rimes, and Tom Jones. There are 2 versions that made Billboard's country songs chart. One of them was by a little-known singer named Jackie Burns. That was in 1972 as well. But in 1979, the legendary Barbara Mandrell took it to number 1 on the country chart, as well as taking it to number 31 on the Billboard Hot 100. Luther Ingram would go on to have one more top 40 hit, which was I'll Be Your Shelter. A year later, Luther Ingram would perform in the concert documentary Wattstax. Unfortunately, he did not match his success. Part of that reason was, in 1975, Stax Records had declared bankruptcy, which of course was the label he was part of. But throughout the decade, he would still release singles and tour. He would often open for Isaac Hayes. Most of those singles, however, would only make Billboard's R&B chart, but you know, it's better than nothing, you know. His last charted single was in 1987, where he did a cover of Bob Dylan's Gotta Serve Somebody. But here's a little something you might find interesting. 2 pop music songwriters, Albert Hammond and Diane Warren, wrote a song in the mid-80s called Don't Turn Around. It was featured as the B-side to Tina Turner's 1986 hit single Typical Male. A year later, Luther Ingram recorded the song and released it as a single. It only hit number 55 on the Billboard R&B chart, but his version did get the attention of the British reggae group Oswald, as they did their own recording of the song. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are expecting me to say this, but yes, it did become a big smash for the Swedish pop dance act Ace of Base. But Luther Ingram can be given credit for that. It was the third hit single off Ace of Base's album The Sign in 1993. Just thought I'd share you that. But in later years, Luther would suffer from diabetes and kidney disease. On March 19th, 2007, he passed away here in Belleville, Illinois. His funeral was at St. Augustine Church in East St. Louis. His wife, Jacqueline, passed away a year later and is buried next to him right here. I like the microphone here. But rest in peace to Mr. Luther Ingram. He will not be forgotten, nor will his music. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Mount Carmel Cemetery in Belleville, Illinois, visiting the grave of R&B soul singer Luther Ingram. So stay tuned for more episodes. I'll see you guys on YouTube. Peace out. Happy travels. Signing off.